from the Holy Land of Mecca, but just an ocean of trash everywhere. Look at this stuff. Look at this stuff. It's everywhere. This is supposedly the holiest place on earth. Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. I hope you've all been keeping well. In today's episode of What on Earth is Going On in the World, we're going to be taking a closer look at Mecca in Saudi Arabia because my goodness is this place dark. This is the holiest place within Islam and it's not an option to go there as a Muslim. You have to go at some point in your life to Mecca. And what goes on at Mecca, you may ask? Well, let's show you. So these are the kinds of scenes that are surfacing all across the internet, mostly on X, showing you the kind of true face of what goes down. It's like pandemonium. This is like a scene from hell. There's all these people selfishly trying to get their turn at kissing the black stone. And the screams, the tramplings underfoot, people die in their hundreds here, as I'm about to show you. And women especially have a very, very hard time here, as you can imagine. And we are seeing huge numbers of sexual harassment cases happening here. So, for example, here's just a small list of them, but a Pakistani woman said that while circling the Kaaba, a man grabbed her butt and repeatedly while smiling at her. Imagine how creepy that is. A British Muslim pilgrim, who's a woman, described men rubbing their erectors against her in the crowd and grabbing her body during the ritual. Wow. An Indonesian girl who's only 17 said that a man pressed his against her during tawaf, which is like the whole circling around the Kaaba thing, and she was harassed later in her hotel. Now get this, a 10-year-old Pakistani girl reported being during tawaf and later assaulted by a bus conductor during the pilgrimage. Many women said police ignored their complaints, surprise, surprise, in an Islamic country, or dismissed the assaults as unavoidable in dense crowds. Some victims even reported guards themselves behaving inappropriately. All right, so this should give you an insight into the Islamic world's attitudes towards women. Now, I'm probably going to touch a little bit more on this in just a second, but just check this video clip out here. So this is actually a video clip of an old man, a father, being strangled to death by his son at the Kaaba in Mecca. Like he's killing his father there. Because Islam has this belief that if you die at Mecca, you're going to go straight to heaven. Because of course within Islam, the understanding of salvation is a very, very strange one. Like there's a few sure ways of making it into heaven, and I guess this is one of them. And the other one is jihad, like blowing people up to get into heaven. And that's why we see all this kind of chaos and just darkness at supposedly the most holy site. Now, one of the other interesting things about Mecca is the stoning of the wall that represents Satan. So at Mecca, there is this wall, and many Muslims believe that Satan actually lives there. Like Satan lives in Mecca. I can strangely believe that one. And in this case, this man isn't just throwing stones at Satan, he's actually using an umbrella to pretend that he's shooting Satan with an automatic weapon, right? So this is like a kind of Hamas fighter throwing grenades, using an umbrella. And this isn't a parody. Like this guy's not joking. This would be blasphemous. He's serious about this, right? This is like a genuine role play of how much he hates Satan, and so he's doing this with an umbrella. Just quite remarkable to see this kind of stuff. Now, in terms of the prayers that you'll hear on the loudspeakers at Mecca, what would you expect to hear? Help achieve world peace, help my father, help my mother. Let's try and save the world from all kinds of war and poverty and violence. Let's pray for our enemies. Let's pray for good things. No, this is what you'll hear.
الشقاء نزيمهم والبلاء طريقهم. اللهم ألبسهم حلل الشقاء وثياب البلاء وأغلال الألم والداء. اللهم اجعل حياتهم حسرة وبلاء واجعل موتهم قهرا. اللهم وعدك وعذابك وعقابك.
There you have it. Now, the people that are praying this kind of stuff are now flooding into Europe. I wonder what's going to happen. Now, what I also find a little bit ironic and sad about all of this is that the prayers that they're describing in terms of, make them poor, make their life miserable, clothe them in misery and garments of calamity, make their life full of pain and misery, give them a tormenting death, misfortune. I mean, you're describing the Middle East. You're describing the Middle East. This is what Sharia law brings to a nation. It's all the things they're trying to pray for their enemies. Quite remarkable. And what else do we see from the Holy Land of Mecca? But just an ocean of trash everywhere. Look at this stuff. Look at this stuff. It's everywhere. This is supposedly the holiest place on earth. How would you go about treating the holiest place on earth? And there just seems to be a lack of connection between the spiritual world and the physical world. There's a saying, show me the God you worship and I'll show you the kind of person you are. And this is what you see all over the Islamic world, unfortunately. Just trash everywhere. Like, does no one know how to put stuff in the bins? And even, another thing, going back to the footage of all those pilgrims at Mecca, form a line. Have you ever heard of queuing? Have you ever heard of queuing? This is maybe something that your enemies, the kuffar, could teach you so that hundreds of you don't fall to death underfoot, right? Check this out. So in 1994, a Hajj stampede caused 270 pilgrims to be killed, all right, during the ritual of stoning the devil. 270 Muslims died by their own feet. 1998, 118 deaths during the same ritual. In 2004, at least 251 people were killed and over 200 injured. In 2006, 363 pilgrims were killed in a crowd crush on the bridge, Jamarat Bridge. These stampedes often occur during the stoning ritual when massive crowds converge simultaneously. Some survivors describe people trampled to death under piles of bodies, pilgrims suffocating in crushes, emergency services unable to reach victims. Okay, you'd think, right, since this entire thing with like circling the Kaaba is meant to be a demonstration of unity amongst the Ummah, the Muslim family, the Muslim brotherhood of nations, that they're there all together, all wearing the same white garments to show equality between all the Muslims. You've got old people, children, women, old men as well. You'd think that they might go about things a bit differently. That you might actually think that, hey, since this is something that is salvific in a sense, right? That doing this is seen as positive in the eyes of Allah. That you might actually say, hey, old lady, you go before me. Your life's more important than me. I'd rather you get into heaven first than me. That kind of altruism. You don't see it. You don't see it. It's just look at the thousands of people climbing all over each other to get to it themselves. And it reminds me of a story I heard about what hell was like when I was a kid. This idea that in hell, everyone walks around with a long spoon. And there's food around, but the spoons are too long to reach into their own mouths. And so as a result, people just walk around starving, unable to get the spoon in their own mouth. But if only they would pick up the food with a long spoon and feed someone else, and that everyone did that in hell and actually showed love amongst each other, hell would, it would be a transformation. It wouldn't be hell anymore. And here's what you see, like this same thing, like everyone's climbing over each other, climbing over women and older people so that they can get there. You don't see this in the Christian world, at the churches, for example, when we're all lining up to receive Holy Communion, okay, that there's just beyond compare towards anything like this in terms of salvation. And are we climbing all over each other? No. Forming a nice queue in humility, offering our place towards the other parishioners to please go in front of me. Your life's more important than me. You go first. right? Women and children first, elderly, the sick go first. It's just some of the things I've been noticing about the kind of etiquette within the Islamic world. Now, here's another thing, because it gets worse, is that in the West, if anyone wants to protest Islam and desecrates the Quran, burns it, or rips pages out, they will be murdered within hours, potentially. But what have we heard from Mecca? Check this out.
A large number of copies of the Holy Quran have been recently found and discarded in the street drainage system in one of the district of Taif, Saudi Arabia, report said. According to Tunisian daily Al Jarida, a 13-year-old boy found the copies and his father informed the police. Footage of the copies of the Quran found in street drains was broadcast on NBC satellite network, sparking anger among viewers. This is not the first time desecration of the Quran happens in Saudi Arabia. In 2013, Quran copies were found in the sewage system in Taif. Later that year, insulting the holy book by prison officials in Al-Har province led to protests in different parts of the country.
Couldn't make this up.
In 2014, a Saudi citizen found torn copies of the Islamic holy book in garbage cans, again in the city of Taif.
You can't make this stuff up. So you have hundreds of Qurans in the sewage systems where all the hotels that are being occupied by all these pilgrims are coming to, pooping into the toilets, going through the drain and being blurted all over the Quran, right? Which to them is like a punishable offense. Like, you're going to hell if you do that. And in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia, the sewers, for some reason, I don't know why, probably pilgrims just like leaving the Qurans on the side road or whatever it is, filled the sewers up with Qurans, drenched in waste from all the pilgrims coming to the city. Wow. I mean, honestly, this is embarrassing. This is very embarrassing. What else do we have here? This one is a video of a Malaysian pilgrim who was basically sitting somewhere when a Saudi man approached him, basically asked him to go up to his hotel room because he was gay and wanted to get into his pants, basically. And this is the kind of stuff that you're seeing at the holy site. You're getting gay men wanting to come onto pilgrims who are coming there. Wow. But yeah, this is the situation in Mecca. Just craziness, dirtiness. This is actually this is a Bangladeshi Pakistani ghetto in Mecca. It's one of the most developed places in Saudi Arabia, and yet here you have this is the kind of quarters where you have a lot of the Bangladeshi Pakistani people. And just look at the filth. Look at the filth. Now, I'm just going to show you some verses from the Quran and just show you more of this kind of stuff. So, slay the unbelievers wherever you find them. Another quote, Muslims must not take the infidels as friends. Those infidels are non-Muslims. Maim and crucify the infidels if they criticize Islam. Terrorize and behead those who believe in scriptures other than the Quran. Muslims must muster all weapons to terrorize the infidels. Unbelievers are stupid. Muslims are urged to fight them. Not quite the case, is it though? Considering the Islamic world is incredibly inbred, the IQ therefore has dropped, and the Islamic world is responsible for what, 0.1% of all scientific discoveries and inventions, despite making up a quarter of the world's population? Yeah, quite something. When the opportunity arises, kill the infidels wherever you find them. The Jews and Christians are perverts, fight them. Is this Christophobic and anti-Semitic? Or are we just only going to talk about Islamophobia? Make war on the infidels living in your neighborhood. Europe's going to be torn apart by this. Punish the unbelievers with garments of fire, hooked iron rods, boiling water. Do not seek peace with the infidels. Okay, this is just more of the stuff that is common belief within the ummah. Sure, you'll find many Muslims who don't know their own faith very well, who are kind of cultural Muslims who do want to get along with people. But you have to understand that there's a difference between actually being Muslim and truly subscribing to the beliefs of Islam and just kind of posing as one. There's a difference. And when you start to understand that one of the main goals of the Muslim life is the imitation of the life of Muhammad, everything starts making a lot more sense. The whole reason why Muslims do this thing around Mecca is basically seen as an obedience to God. So many Islamic scholars say the primary meaning is simply submission and obedience to God's command, and the ritual is performed because Muhammad did it. And because Muhammad did it, therefore Muslims have to do it. So you see this thing about imitating Muhammad, because Muhammad is seen to be the perfect man. And that's why the Islamic world doesn't have any issues with beheading people, right? This is what Muhammad did. Muhammad beheaded people. They don't take an issue with pedophilia and child marriage because Muhammad married a 6-year-old and consummated it when she was 9 years old, according to the Quran. So this is a key part of the Islamic life, is imitating the life of Muhammad. And if you're not imitating the life of Muhammad, can you really call yourself a Muslim? You'd be actually a heretic if you didn't. Which is why whenever there is a terrorist attack, beheadings, or any sort of pedophilia stuff, the Muslim world, the Islamic world is silent. It's silent. This is why. But I'll end it on this. The Kaaba in Mecca was said to be, in Islam, created by Abraham and Ishmael. There's no evidence for this. Every scholar and historian rejects this idea. This is something that's only found within the Islamic narrative. And actually, we have all the evidence to know that the Kaaba was actually a pre-Islamic structure of the pagans that existed there, who had this kind of worship of the pagan god called Hubal, along with these 3 other deities that were called Al-Lat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. And these 3 were considered the highest-ranking female deities in the Arabian pantheon. In fact, there is a instance in the life of Muhammad, which has been later termed the Satanic verses, where basically he is cited as, bowing down to them and kind of praising these deities. And the pagan Meccans were pleased because now their gods were acknowledged. And now if you understand that Muhammad was really trying to expand into this empire, this very conquesting ideology. And so he would say things to try to draw in the Jews. He would say things to draw in the Christians. And here he's saying things to draw in the pagans that were in high number in these regions. Okay, so he's always trying to bring things in and make them submit to him and Allah. And so, yeah, you do have the almost co-opting of the pagan religion of the time, which did involve these same rituals that Muslims do today. The circling of the Kaaba, the kissing of the stone, and all this has to do with this kind of pagan worship of this lunar deity. And so, yeah, this whole lie that the Kaaba was created by Abraham, or that he might have had, I think, either relations on it or tied his donkey or camel to it once. There's some weird stories around it. None of it's true. There's no evidence to believe that Abraham was anywhere near Mecca. And this is one of the reasons why the Saudi government does not allow any sort of archaeology to take place in Mecca, because they're worried about what it's going to uncover. So here's a little video clip showing that.
Archaeologists have uncovered the tombs of pharaohs, the walls of Jericho, and the temples of Babylon. History leaves footprints. You can follow them. But when it comes to Mecca, the trail goes cold. Not a single confirmed structure from the early Islamic period has ever been uncovered. No mosques from Muhammad's lifetime. No traces of pilgrimage from the 7th century. And here's what makes it worse. Independent archaeologists aren't allowed in. Only Muslim-approved teams, no outside verification, no peer-reviewed digs. Jewish and Christian texts from late antiquity reference many Arabian peoples and cities, but never Mecca. Not once. No archaeology. No outside texts. No maps. No inscriptions. If Mecca was truly a religious or commercial center before Islam, why did the entire ancient world forget to mention it? The only place Mecca seems to exist is in Islamic sources written after the fact. When you visit Jerusalem, you can walk through tunnels under the Temple Mount, see stones from the Second Temple, inscriptions with the name of Yahweh. In Petra, you can see entire cities carved into rock. In Egypt, The tombs of pharaohs still echo their stories. But Mecca? Nothing. Not a single archaeological layer confirming Mecca's early Islamic past. And here's the bigger issue. No one's allowed to look. Saudi Arabia strictly controls all excavations in Mecca and Medina. Independent archaeologists, especially non-Muslims, are banned. No open digs, no peer-reviewed findings, no access to sites of alleged historical significance. Why? What do you find when you dig in Jerusalem? History. What do you find when you dig in Mecca? You're not even allowed to try.
Qurans, that's what you find in the sewers.
Late to find it now. Over the past decades, Saudi Arabia has destroyed over 90% of historic Mecca. Entire neighborhoods dating back centuries were bulldozed. Even buildings from the early Islamic era, gone. The house of Khadija, Muhammad's first wife, demolished. The birthplace of Muhammad, replaced with a library. Graveyards of early Muslims, leveled. And all of this to make space for shopping malls, luxury hotels and construction projects worth billions. The Abraj al-Bait towers, towering over the Kaaba, now sit on top of ancient ruins, ruins that will never be studied. UNESCO and international scholars have raised concerns, but no one can stop it. Ask yourself, why would a nation that claims to protect the holiest site in Islam erase its own history? Maybe because real archaeology doesn't match the official narrative. Today, the Hajj is one of the largest religious gatherings on earth. Every year, over 2 million Muslims flood into Mecca from every corner of the globe. Many spend their life savings just to be there once. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam, a spiritual obligation that's not optional. But behind the white robes and chants lies something else, a financial empire. Saudi Arabia earns an estimated 12 to 20 billion US dollars every single year from Hajj and Umrah pilgrimages. It's the kingdom's second biggest source of income after oil. The money flows in from visa fees, accommodation, transportation,
Insane.
food, and everything else pilgrims spend on. These
Den of
visitors
thieves.
aren't just
An
welcomed,
absolute den of thieves.
they're marketed to, sold to, and built around. Currently, this revenue makes up about 7% of the non-oil GDP. The government is aiming to grow the Hajj and Umrah economy into a $150 to $350 billion market over the next decade. Shopping malls line the route to prayer. Global fast food chains, luxury watches, designer perfumes, all sold just meters from Islam's most sacred site. And if you thought this was simply for convenience, think again. The Saudi state controls the narrative. Access to Mecca is restricted. Why? Because Mecca must remain what it has become, a carefully preserved myth, built not on excavated history, but on financial interest and religious control. The deeper you dig, the more fragile it all looks.
Wow.
Saudi officials have demolished over 95% of Mecca's historical buildings in the last 2 decades. There's no sign of preservation, no reverence for real history. Because the goal is not archaeology, the goal is branding. Mecca has become a religious product, packaged and sold on a global scale. It's the ultimate destination, not because of what lies beneath it, but because of what's been said about it.
Wow. So there we have it. Now you know how much money the Saudi government are making off of this. And it's not an option. Like, you have to do it. It's one of the 5 pillars of Islam. And they have just destroyed all these other sites which have otherwise been holy to the Islamic world. Like, you would have thought like the birthplace and one of the houses of Muhammad's wife would be preserved. Nope. Let's make a penthouse, a duplex, a hotel, a shopping mall, fast food chains, all on the sites within Islam. And it just reminds me of when, Christ goes up to the temple and he turns over the tables and drives out the money changers. And he says, "You have turned the house of God, a place of worship for all nations, into a den of thieves." This isn't even a place of worship for all nations. It's just for the Muslims. It's an exclusive club. and look what they're doing to the place. It's just amazing. So anyway, look, this is one of the easiest pillars of Islam to debunk. The historic claims to it being from Abraham, just completely bunk, and all the things that go along with it. Not only the money-making scheme that this really is, but also just the levels of barbarity that take place there. All the groping and, you know, these men rubbing up their erect genitals up against these young girls, these 10-year-olds, these 17-year-old girls. And it happens all the time. Even the guards around the Kaaba are doing it. People being trampled underfoot. There's no sense of charity or queuing. Like, can someone introduce queuing to these people? You know, you go before me, please, please. You've traveled from far. You're old. Please kiss it before me. You're a woman. Let's form a line here. Like, you would have thought they would do that, but no. Anyway, let me know what you thought of today's episode. Give it a thumbs up if you can. Comment down below. Subscribe to the show if you haven't already. Check out the merch store. There's some pretty cool designs there, which I think you'll love. And I'll speak to you in the next one. God bless.